Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mavra and I welcome you all to Hummingbirds Talks, which is a series of interactive sessions with women who inspire us. My today's guest is Dr. Nikhat. She's an educationist. She is the vice principal of Kinnaird College, and she is somebody who is a very, very strong advocate of economic empowerment of women. She has influenced thousands of lives which she comes across every day. And not only that, she has a heart of gold and a personality which is certainly larger than life. Yes, she has been awarded with a lot of awards and she's got a lot of merits, but very recently she has been awarded with the Distinguished Alumni Award by the Indiana University, which is certainly, a wonderful thing and indeed a proud moment for all of us. So I'm delighted to be hosting this session, to be sharing this space with her today. And I know that this session is going to be a very, very enlightening and inspiring session for all of us, particularly the women audience. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Khan.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Dr. Khan?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Yes. So first of all, congratulations for your award, which you're just going to collect on 29th of April. What a moment, what a proud moment for you and for all of us. Congratulations.
Yes, you see, it's an award that I will value more than whatever I got here, because it's from, you feel they are more objective.
Absolutely. And that's a place where you actually belong. So, uski zyada khushi hoti hai agar aap uska dekhe to.
Ji.
So, Dr. Khan, we would like to know about your childhood, your educational background. How was it like growing up as the only child? We would like to know about all of this.
Okay. I was, in a way, my parents got married before partition, but I was born much later. And they had sort of given up hope that they would ever have a child. And then my mother had a couple of operations and I was there. So it was, both my parents, were too good to me in a way. They would not say much to me. And I had a wonderful childhood, all the toys that I wanted. I would break them daily and get more and all those things. So, but the best thing that happened was that I went to school in Burnhall, where my mother was sort of asked to teach. So she started teaching there. And my father, though he belongs to a very conservative family, did allow her to do that, with the result that I went to school there also. And I started my schooling when I was 2.5 years old. So I was learning things that 4 and 5-year-olds were learning the ABCs and the cats and dogs and whatever you do as a baby. So they told my mother I could sit in her class while she taught, because she said, I will not leave my child at home. And so, I realize, and you will realize too when you have your own children, that little children, girls and boys, absorb a lot. We don't realize it, but they are absorbing a lot. I see it in my own granddaughter now.
Lovely.
Anyway, as I grew older, it was a boys' school. And so they would keep letting me, I used to be at times the only girl in class and was more like a tomboy. I loved to, play games which boys like to play. And then my parents thought that they would give me the best education possible. So in Ahmedabad, there were these government colleges and schools for girls. And so they decided to move to Karachi, where they thought they had the best schools. But then my father suffered in Karachi, his health. And we moved to Lahore, where I studied at the convent. And at the convent, it was a learning experience because I was now with girls and I was used to boys. And I am an only child also. So that was at that time, it was an advantage. Now I think it's a disadvantage because I lack siblings. Anyway, in school, all the girls knew how to knit and stitch, and you know how much emphasis the nuns place on embroidery and stitching and all that. And I knew nothing. And so, and when they asked me to knit, I was unable to. But my mother had this knitting machine, which I was very good at. So she requested the nuns to allow me to knit on that machine. And later on, I became very proficient knitting sweaters. And my hobby is embroidery. So, when I think now of why I would have chosen embroidery and knitting as, my hobbies, it's more that I faced that challenge in school. You see, I knew nothing, the girls knew a lot. And so in life too, I think when you face challenges and when you overcome those challenges, you excel. And now I do better knitting and better embroidery than most of them. So some might be, some are, I know, better than me, my class fellows. Anyway, I did my senior Cambridge from the convent. And what used to happen was that this is also something very interesting, which is applicable to, I think, many other people. I would do very well one exam, sort of first 2-3 positions. And then I would say I'm very smart, won't work for the next exam. And my position would go to 7th, 8th, and 9th. I also had a photographic memory, so it was easy to learn things by heart and all that. Anyway, both my parents didn't say anything to me. I got pink cards there also in school. Those were cards we got when we were naughty. I was also, Mother Andrew. I think she's one of the people that made me. She was very strict, but eventually we became very good friends. So my mother told her she is an only child. We are not going to say anything to her, but you say whatever you want. And so she took me in hand and she was always after me. If I got 99 out of 100 in maths, she would get angry and say, why didn't you get 100? So that was the kind of mentor I had in school, and all because of my mother. And then my mother told her that she does one exam well and the other she doesn't do so well. So before my senior Cambridge, Mother Andrew asked all the teachers to give me less marks, so that in Cambridge I would do good. And she told me, I will not talk to you if you don't get A grades. And so I worked very hard. So that is how I ended school. And then I joined Kinnaird College. And I think only a few of us went into science, about 4 of us. The rest went into arts. Yes. And in Kinnaird, I was a good student. I think I topped in all exams. So I was, and it was not so much a hard work. It was more my memory. And, I had this, what my father said was a photographic memory. So when you were, our system of education, and that is where I find it's very faulty. I want to bring it up because I'll also tell you my own story, which relates to it. I could ratify a lot. Rote memorization came very easy to me. And I ended up top of the class most times. And then I went to Government College. And in the first few tests there, I got zeros, right? And the professor called me and said, how come you have such a good record from Kinnaird College? Why you know nothing? And that hit me. And it was a challenge, and I also think teachers should get after students a little, like this professor of mine got after me.
Right. And
I ended up top of the class in the 5th year. Those were, annual exams. So I ended up top of my class after that exam. And he called me and he said, I couldn't believe these were your papers. They were just wonderful.
Lovely.
So when I got this position at this, in those days we used to read newspapers. We didn't have internet. We were not very, we didn't know what was really happening in the world other than what we read in newspapers. And there came these scholarships from our embassy and from our government. And I just applied for those scholarships, and I got 3 of them. And one was for Italy, one was for England, and the other was for the USA. But in school, my parents had already decided that I would marry this man. And when I topped, I got this really big head now. And I said, I'm going to study further. I got the scholarships. So my father was quite upset. He said, in our family, when I'd say it in Urdu, baat pakki hoti hai, to iska matlab hai nikah ho gaya. But I couldn't speak to him directly. I talked to my mother, and my mother would say, this is what she's saying, and this is what she's saying. So finally he agreed, and he said, okay, she can go. And I said, I will go to the US. He wanted me to go to Cambridge, where I had got admission. But I decided to go to the United States. Yeah. Anyway, I went to the United States, and I got into the master's in physics in Indiana University, and the books were more or less the same as I had studied in government college. So I was all happy. Oh, I don't even have to work to be doing very well. And knowing I thought it would be similar exams to how we have in Pakistan. But the first, we had to have 3 exams during the semester. And the first exam that we had in, I think, end of September, beginning of October, was where I practically failed in all subjects. And that was something which came as such a big shock. You cannot imagine how I felt. Very soon I developed ulcers in my mouth, and I had a very hard time. I thought I cannot study in the United States. So we had to book calls to home at that time. So I booked a call to my father, and I said to him, I miss home and I miss you and all that blah, blah nonsense, instead of telling him the reality, the truth, and I want to come home. And he said, and that is the making of me. Although, my father was his love was not possessive, but it was a beautiful love that he had for me. And he said, तुमने इतना जिद करके गई थी अमेरिका कि तुमने पढ़ना है, तो अब ये डिग्री लेके आना. And that is what changed my life. I worked day and night, bought the undergraduate books, studied them till, I started getting, in the next semester, of course, I got A's and B's, but that semester, I just managed to get C's. Yeah. And in Indiana, they don't consider C's. Yeah. It is then I realized that our system was so defective. It was the same books, the same theory, but all their questions are, where they test your application and they test how you handle things. And each question was a new question. Yeah. Anyway, when I came back, I again was got engaged, but it broke it up again. And I said, I want to do a PhD, because these professors would call me every year. And I was now, thinking I should do a PhD. Although my father belonged to a very well-to-do family, my mother belonged to just an average family. And there were 4 siblings, her brother, elder brother, and these 3 daughters. She is number 2. She told me that she was the best out of the 4 in her studies. But the father said, and she wanted to be a doctor. When she did her metric and she applied to Vellore, which at that time was the best school for medicine in India. Even today, it is a very well-known medical college, like we have King Edward's. So she just sent a letter there, and they admitted her. They said, yes, she could join. But her father said he could not support her. He did not have the money to support her. He would only support the son. So my Mamu, my uncle, became a doctor. He was a very good doctor, very famous. But my mother was married, and then after partition came to Pakistan. And that is, she was only FA when she was teaching in Burnhall. Then when we came to Lahore, when I was doing my senior Cambridge and schooling, she started studying for her master's. BA. She never did a BA. She went for her master's. She met these Americans and they said, oh, you are very good. you can join. And she started going and worked all the time. I used to see her studying, and she did very well. So she got her master's. And, the Punjab University said, we will give you the degree after you have shown us your BA certificate, but she didn't have it. So in 3 months, she did her BA and I taught her for her BA. Can you believe that? She took English literature and I had done, senior Cambridge with English literature. I used to teach her. And she had took the other subject was psychology, in which she had done her master's. Anyway, she joined the Punjab University. And at that time, there were Americans there and they wanted her to go for a PhD and offered her a scholarship. But my father said, till my daughter goes with you, you can't go. So she waited till I was in my bachelor's. And then both of us were admitted in Purdue University, she for her PhD and I for my bachelor's. And we went, but then my father became unwell and I came back and I told her, you do your PhD so when I was doing my master's in government college, she came back with a PhD. So I think that is something which must have been, something which guided me or which was my ideal, that I went for a PhD later on.
Yeah.
So my son was about a year old. And another thing happened in my life at that time, that my husband said, yes, go and do your PhD. So I went for my PhD.
Yeah.
And I did exceptionally well during my PhD. My thesis received a distinguished award. A distinguished dissertation award, and I had a CGPA of 4.
Lovely.
Because I said, I will get very good results. And then that is the time I came back and I got after Mrs. Falbus. I said, please let us have MA classes. And at that time, LUMS was also starting the classes in science, the School of Sciences. And I thought I'd join LUMS or some other place where they had higher studies. But then I was given the charge of starting the MPhil the master's programs in Kinnaird College. And in 1998, we had the first master's and the first 4-year bachelor's program in computer science. And the computer science program is the first in the Punjab. 4-year computer science program is the first in the Punjab. Later on, once Kinnaird got autonomy, we started the 4-year BA programs in 2003. We started the MPhil programs in 2006 and finished with the 2-year master's programs by then. I strongly feel that the Pakistani women must start working, must join the mainstream, and must be economically independent. It is only then that they will have the status that they desire. Because without education or without even working, even if they don't have education, there's some women who start their own businesses from these these banks that give some small loans, and they do extremely well. And I think women are very smart.
They are.
They are very, very smart. Men are more simple. I hope my husband and my son don't hear this.
But you see, Dr. Khan, you're a very strong advocate of economic empowerment of women. But I'm sure that you're cognizant of the challenges that women face when they enter workforce. Would you like to talk about any challenges that you faced when you started working, whether they're internal challenges or they're external challenges?
As I told you, I was a little... I had many advantages, but yes, when initially I taught for a year at the convent, not even, nearly a year, because I was waiting for my MS result. And my mother said, why don't you go and join the convent? And so I went and they kept me. When the Public Service Commission positions came up, I applied there and I was selected. I was number 1 also. And I was posted to Rawalpindi. But Mrs. Falbus went out of her way and brought me to Kinnaird and Lahore. So I had it in a way, things were done for me also. Then I went, I think the first time I went on to speak was at the cathedral school here, where I was going to speak on science and science education. At that time, I'm talking now of nearly 40, 50 years ago. And that was it found very difficult facing those people. But I read the paper and came. And the next time I went to Thailand, to the University of Chiang Mai, and there I had to read a paper also. And that was, I found, even more difficult for me, facing those people, where you had people from all nationalities sitting there. The cathedral school episode was easier. But then that gave me a lot of confidence after I came back from that conference system. I do have,
and then you like spend time with them.
some of my best friends or very close friends are not here in Pakistan. So they are in the US or in Australia or not here. I have a couple of friends here. I am a firm believer that women should support each other, and I do. When somebody and a friend, we also have a group of friends from the convent and a group of friends from Kinnaird College with all those WhatsApp groups and so on. If they're ever in need, we are supporting each other, and that is very important for them and for me. So it's a two-way process. So yes, that is important. The family is important. I keep asking my daughter-in-law who doesn't work. I don't want to force her into anything, but I keep sort of telling her that she's a talented young woman. She should apply her talents. And my daughter, who is now doing her MPhil in Kinnaird, to work also. I keep telling them this, that they must work and support, and the two support each other a lot, my daughter and my daughter-in-law. We must also work for women. And again, here I want to cite my mother. After she retired, and even before, has been a social worker for the rehabilitation center here on Firozpur Road. She was the vice president there. And what she did, she would adopt small villages near Lahore, go there and be there for about 6 months, teach the women there about hygiene and cleanliness and stitching and being self-reliant. And I used to go with her. She used to force me to go with her. I didn't do it very happily. So, but she used to do it. And that I think is what women should be doing. If you have time and you are free and you don't want to work for money, then you should be doing voluntary work and supporting other women. But when we started the BS programs and the postgraduate, I insisted that each student must do a research. Each student, bachelor's or otherwise. It is Mrs. Falbus who said that each student must do mandatory social work.
Absolutely.
If she wanted a BA degree. Now we have a social work program that is extremely good.
Yeah, so do you read something? Kabhi jab aapko time mile ya...
Oh, it is my hobby to read. Yeah. I read every night. Every night I'm reading, and I finish maybe 2 to 3 books every week. Now I don't before I used to finish a book every day. But now takes me more time, not more time. I need to rest. I need to sleep more. Before I would get away with 3 to 4 hours of sleep. Now I must sleep more. And so I read about 3 books every day, every week. And they can be novels, they can be books, Reader's Digest books, those condensed books, which are mostly bestsellers, condensed a bit. Those are very interesting. So I'm reading them. I'm not much of a philosopher. I love poetry. I like Ghalib and I like Iqbal. I like the more English poets, Wordsworth and Tennyson and Shelley and all of them, a
Lovely.
lot of them. But that is because we had English literature in my senior Cambridge.
Yeah, yeah.
So reading is part of me. I'm alone most of the time because I just have one son and a daughter, and they disappear every evening. My husband disappears also. So I'm there sitting alone, and I have my mother, but my mother is also reading, and she is she has now become quite deaf, so it is difficult to converse with her. But then I'm also reading, and that is my best time of the day.
That's when
Oh, I think
Dr. Khan, one last thing. One thing message that you want to give to the mothers of today, because आपसे बेहतर advice कोई नहीं दे सकता. Mothers go.
the mothers must give time to their children. What is happening is that they do not take them to parks. They do not give them play with them and, promote team games. And what is happening is the children are mostly sitting in front of the TV or using laptops and mobile phones. And that is maybe an hour a day would be okay, because some of those programs are good for children. But that is the maximum I would advise, 1 to 1.5 hours. Otherwise, they should be spending time outdoors, playing, and just enjoying the simple things we enjoyed. And in spite of having everything in life, the children of today say we are bored, we have nothing, we have this, we have that. So it's because they are not really enjoying themselves and not being creative. They are not being creative. We devised our own games. We had these games we would play, and then we would say, Acha, we'll add to this, and we always made our own games. And we were more creative. So everything that they have is ready-made. And that is something which is bad, which is not promoting creativity in people. And creativity should start from the day you are born. You should start giving stimulus to your baby. And when the child becomes, they say maximum brain growth is still about 2.5 to 3, 4 years. So that is the time you must stimulate the child a lot. And show them new things. And for older people also, if you want, otherwise they become senile. They should be reading or learning something new every day. So that is what I would suggest to mothers. And the food that they give their children, it's, mostly junk food. And that is what the children start liking and then asking for. They should have more wholesome food, more fresh vegetables and fruits and so on, and home cooked foods. So I'm talking really about the very well-to-do. I don't know much about, I think the mothers of the poor families are working day and night. Women of Pakistan, are in 20, we have 25% poverty, but the women suffer the most. And don't get enough to eat. They are malnourished. Their nutrition is poor. So those things have to be corrected also. Because if you are not, if you're not healthy, the baby you will produce will not be healthy as well. So as children are born, they are weak and anemic and all. And this is something I want to say just now, that in Kinnaird College, I used to, in my classes, when we had the environmental sciences class, even for my physics class, I used to lately I'm not doing this. I used to ask the girls to get their hemoglobin test done. It's, 100 rupees. And 70 to 80% girls were anemic. And these are some of the girls who come from the most well-to-do, and if not well-to-do, at least families where they have proper food. So there's something there is something either in our, genetic system, or we are not eating properly. And so the result is anemic young women. And if you're anemic, then oxygen doesn't go to your brain and you can't study as much. And you should also get the test done.
Right. That's good.
Yes, Mavra, you need to get the test.
I will. I will. Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Khan. Thank you for your time. ऐसे लगा कि जैसे हमने एक story सुनी है, and that story had various points of inspiration and motivation for us. A lot to learn from you. Thank you for your time, and your presence and your conversation really means a lot to me, and I'm sure to my audience as well. This brings us to the end of a very, very enlightening session, ladies and gentlemen. With many thanks to Dr. Khan, I would like to conclude this session here, and stay tuned for more content.